All right, let's go ahead and get started here tonight. So what we're going to be working on is looking at the Pipedrive API. Pipedrive is a CRM, and it has some built-in integrations with Zapier. Well, I think saying built-in integrations with Zapier is a little, what's the word? Generous, because if you've integrated with Zapier, then great, you can integrate with everything, right? So I haven't done a whole lot with Zapier in the past, and tried to play with it a little bit last night and realized it's not real time unless you actually pay a lot of money. It doesn't give you the, well, I think you have, well, I'll just pull it up real quick here. So if we look at Zapier's pricing, all right, so Zapier pricing. Oh, great, it comes right here. Okay, so the free plan gives you up to 5 zaps, 15-minute updates, which means that it's only going to go check to try and do any synchronization every 15 minutes, which isn't my favorite. It's totally fine. But the other thing is that you don't get filters, you don't get formatters, multi-step zaps aren't a thing, and as it turns out, that's all very important for doing anything very serious. So here we have the one I set up last night, which was create a Google task when a new activity is added to Pipedrive. And I'll walk through this real quick just to give you an idea of sort of where this solution sort of falls down for me, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist sometimes. So if I look at the trigger being Pipedrive, I get to choose a new activity. So an activity is something like sort of like a to-do, but it has a date. That has a date and a time. So for the most part, I'm doing email follow-ups with people. So the thing that would actually show up on here would be a new email activity is created, and I want to be able to check it off when it is completed. I connect it to my specific account for Boa DFly Dev, and then I can test the trigger. And what it does is it looks at a recent event that was similar. So here we see a new activity event with an ID of 24. This was my owner. So this was me setting up an activity to remember to follow up with a friend of mine, Adam Culp. He actually does beach casts, if anyone's interested. I think beach casts hasn't had a lot of new content recently, but it's something that he was working on before. So I was going to write him. I wanted to follow up on some things, so this ended up inside Pipedrive. So the next thing it does is create a task in Google Tasks. So anytime it gets a new activity, it chooses Google Task, create task. So the other events that it could actually do would be update a task, create a task list, or find a task. Choose account. It's looking at my Google, whatever it is now, Google Suite or Google Workplace account. And then what I'm going to do is specify which of my task lists it goes to. So it's going to go to the Pipedrive task list. The title is going to be set based on the information from the deal. So I'm going to look at all items, and I can look and see that for Pipedrive, the subject is going to be the name of the task. So I choose subject here, and then I created a little, the note is actually a bunch of things put together. So I'm using the name, the person's email address, and then I'm constructing the URL to the person within Pipedrive, and then making sure that I have Pipedrive activity ID. So this is actually using the ID of the activity that's created. And this is important because I need to be able to track changes from Google Tasks to reflect those back into Pipedrive. So I need to make sure that there's some way for me to reverse this lookup. And then testing the action, it would actually try to use that same event earlier. You can see that it's put this note together that is using Adam's email address, the Pipedrive link for the person. So this is the link directly to Adam, and then the ID in my account for this specific activity. And this actually works pretty well. It will get me a task created in Google. I'm actually going to try and do this now to show you how it works. I'm going to open up Pipedrive. It's still really new to Pipedrive, so some of this stuff is just like testing information. So I'm going to go and go to my contacts, go to people, and I'm going to go to Bo Simonson. So this is my personal Gmail account. And I'm going to create an activity to do an email, and I'll say, remind Bo to stream on Thursday. And I'm going to choose this to be tomorrow, and then I'm going to click save. Now, in an ideal world, this would just go where it needs to go. If I look at my Fantastical, I don't want to see that. Fantastical. So I don't see anything here on Wednesday yet. Even if I do a refresh, it doesn't actually show up because we have to wait for Zapier to actually decide to go check my account. I'm going to check my Google Tasks. And so here are a few of the tasks that I have, and we can see that the one that I just added is not there. If I go back to Zapier, I can run this manually rather than waiting for it to run. It's actually going to go try to look for new activities, and it's going to find one, and it's going to create a new activity. So if I didn't do this manually, this would have happened on its own eventually, allegedly every 15 minutes at this plan. And so now if I go back to here, I can see a remind Bo to stream on Thursday, which is awesome. And if I click on it, you can see, I guess you can't see everything. So here's the full notes that I had, so you can get everything there. But if you look at it in Fantastical, this is where I actually like it more. We can actually see more details, and it's all clickable. So remind Bo to stream on Thursday. If I click on it and bring up the details, I actually have clickable things. So I could either click to email Bo directly, or I could actually click here to take me to Pipedrive. Unfortunately, my Pipedrive is in a natified window, so it doesn't come up here very well. But that's the general idea, is I would like to have something a little nicer that I can do these things with. Now, the problem that we have with Pipedrive now is if I go in and make a change to this activity, so follow up with Bo, remind Bo, if I delete this activity, Google doesn't know. If I change the date on this activity, Google doesn't know. If I complete it successfully, Google doesn't know, which means my calendar is going to continue to say, remind Bo to stream on Thursday, until I manually go in and change that. And that's kind of annoying. Because otherwise I'm just going to have a task list that's completely full of stuff that doesn't actually, it's not relevant. I'm going to stop paying attention to it. So that's one of the issues with the simple Zapier integration. And that's not something that can be fixed just by tweaking this integration a little bit more. If we look and see what we can actually do as a trigger, we'll see that we can't actually choose anything else related to activities. We can either do a new activity or we can do an activity matching a filter. There's nothing like a activity updated, activity deleted, activity completed, nothing like that we can actually hook onto here. So this works sort of to get me started. It's a good proof of concept, but it's not actually something that is going to make me super happy long term. So the other side of this is looking at update activity on Pipedrive when Google Task is updated. So this is the other way now. This is looking at Google Tasks. So it's going to be choosing Google Task anytime a task is completed. So this is where these are the triggers that are available for Google Tasks, and they're similar to the things that are available for Pipedrive as well. So there's a task is completed, there's a new task created, and a new task list was created. So the only one that we can really do anything interesting with here is new completed task. This means I've gone in and completed a task, and now it's a newly completed. I get to choose the account that I'm going to go to and then set up the trigger. So it wants to know which task list it should be looking at. So in this case, I want the Pipedrive. So anytime a task is completed from the Pipedrive task list, it's going to do this event. And now this extra step in here, and this is where you can't do this on the free version of Zapier, because I think this is a multi-step action, is I need to be able to get the ID from the completed task. So if I open this up, I choose a formatter task, and the event is going to be text. So there's numbers, utilities, date, time. There's different things that you can do to filter or extract information from messages that are from the trigger. And then what do I do with it? So I decided to do extract pattern, and I created the regular expression to look for the string within my message or within my note that has the Pipedrive activity. So Pipedrive activity ID, this is doing the capture. So this is looking for one or more digits. So it's looking at the text for Pipedrive activity ID : space, and then whatever numbers come after that, we're going to use for the ID associated with that task. And then the input values, I'm choosing notes. So again, this is the information that comes from Google Tasks on this completed event. And so I can look through here and see, oh, notes. So notes is what we wrote to, notes is what's coming back. And so it also shows you, when you go to test action, what it's actually going to find for us. So here we can see that it is capturing output of 24. And we'll use that inside the action. So in the action, again, choosing Pipedrive. Here, the only other thing we can really do interesting is update activity. So we want to be able to update the activity that we're receiving. Choosing an account, just like we did on the other side of it. And here now I can say, okay, the activity that I'm looking for is going to be found from the output of extract ID, which is this step. I'm going to extract ID, and then I'm going to look at all of the options, and I can see that output 0 would be the index of the first match. So if you're matching multiple things within the message text, you would have like output 1, output 2, output 3. So here we're doing output 0, which for the sample data is matching 24. So, I'll try to put it on there twice. So this is the thing that it's going to use to say, this is the ID that you're going to update. Is done is going to be yes. We don't have to do anything fancy here because we are doing the completed task. So we don't have to look to see whether or not the information coming in is completed or not. Subject. So this was something that I was going to experiment with. If you change the title in Google, I think this will actually update the title back in Pipedrive, but I don't know how important that is, but it allows you to do that. So you can essentially override, or you can use this to update the activity with new data if there is new data. So due date and time, is going to be set to updated. Notes. If I don't enter any notes, then it's going to leave the notes the same as they were inside Pipedrive, and I don't actually do anything with them then. I could change the type if I wanted to. So if you're doing something interesting with types, we could do that here. But I'm not doing anything strange. And then test action will take the information that would come from a completed task on Google and run it through to see what it actually does on Pipedrive. So I'm going to go in now, and I'm going to go to remind Bo to stream on Thursday. And I'm going to say on Twitch, just for fun. I'm going to see if this actually works. So I've updated the title, but it's still open. So nothing is actually going to happen to the information on Pipedrive. I'm just realizing, I think I said Thursday night instead of Tuesday. And actually, I feel like I'm not actually sending my tweets out for some reason. I don't know if I'm shadow banned. Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. All right, so we have the task here, and let's go ahead and complete it. And if we go back into Pipedrive now, actually I'm just going to go look at Bo, because I should be able to see this information here. I can see remind Bo to stream on Thursday as my activity. So it still says that. So now I'm going to go and run the zap that... how do I go back? Here we go. I'm going to actually run the zap that will update and synchronize back. So let's do play. All right, so it's now going to look at Google Tasks to see if there are any newly completed tasks that it hasn't done yet. Oh, and it did find it. So it triggered one new completed task. It formatted it, so that's where it was getting the ID, and then it updated the activity. So if I go look at the Bo Simonson on Pipedrive now, okay, so we've already seen it update. So the update within Pipedrive was fast. And we can see that it did switch the title, and it did mark it as completed. So that's all fine and good. Like, I think that works really well. The things that I don't like are that it's only going to be updated every 15 minutes, and that I can't tell Google Tasks via Zapier that something that's been added is now completed. And if I change the text, or if I change the due date or anything like that anywhere, none of that is actually working. Like, it's going to be a one-way sort of thing. So this is where I wanted to see what more we could actually do with this. And so one of the things that we have access to in Pipedrive is tools and apps and webhooks. So the webhook documentation looks like it's actually fairly substantial. We can do basically star.star to get everything and send it to a notification URL. I may decide to do that someday, but I think today I'm just going to focus on the specific events. And then what you get is a payload. You get the metadata, and let's see. Webhook format, action. So we have deal, and then we have action, and we sort of already have an idea of what those actions are. I think it's created, updated. Actually, go look and see. I'm going to create a new webhook, and so we can do added, updated, merged, or deleted. So if we do star, that means that we could get any one of those. And then if we do activity, I think that would probably be a good place for us to start. So we can see that, we'll see that an activity was added. We could see that an activity was updated or deleted. It looks like activity can't be merged. That makes sense. So added, updated, and deleted are the only things that we really need to worry about. The ID, I believe, is the ID of the activity itself. And then there's some other bits of data here. I wonder if there's, something more meaningful. I don't know if we actually have the information about the object itself. Retry field, determine the amount of delivery tense. Current. Okay, so this is the object data. So current must contain the version, or must contain the object contents of the object itself. So in this case, it would be the activity object. Current and previous. So this talks about what current and previous look like. So if you delete an object, current would be null and previous would be the last state of the object. So I don't think we would need to know that, but it can be handy sometimes to look at how those things are related. Adding new objects, updated, so current state and previous state, that makes sense, and then merge doesn't matter. Let's see if there's anything interesting in here. ID of the object, company ID, user ID. Transpended. Pipedrive service name, webhook ID. Okay. Okay, so I think I'm just going to jump right in. I need to open PHP Storm. I think I'm going to put this in dfly because dfly dev, excuse me, already has Pipedrive connected to it. Auto configure. Okay, so let's pull up. No, not source. App. Okay, so we have some jobs already. So create Pipedrive lead. Yeah, this is already working with the Pipedrive API, so we should be able to do some interesting stuff with this if we need to. Sense. So the way that this works is I already have it set up so that if you try to connect with me on my website, it actually does some work to put you into Pipedrive already. So that's how like simonson@gmail.com ended up in here. And so this can create leads for me. So the dfly dev website itself already has some knowledge of Pipedrive. I'm going to bring up iTerm to get a couple of services up and running. All right. I should be able to okay, so this is my local workstation, and so I need to make sure, because I always forget this part, the middleware for verify CSRF tokens. So here I'm going to do webhooks / so I'm just going to put that there. So what this means is that in order to receive a post request, Laravel defaults to requiring the CSRF token. What happens in a lot of cases, if you're posting webhooks, there's no way to give those webhooks the CSRF token. So you sort of have to do some trust on this, that if someone posts to this specific URL, everything is good to go. A lot of places will have the ability to verify the signature. So like they will send a signature along with it using some sort of code, but it doesn't look like Pipedrive has that sort of functionality built into it, which is kind of a bummer, but I guess I kind of get it. All right, so do web.php. All right, and let's just do some simple stuff here. Let's do post. Let's create a new controller. Right, and we don't have to give it a name. Make it invocable. Make sure we have something showing up here. Oh, actually, do curl. All right, so that popped up. I think that's good, although it may actually be giving us an error of some sort behind the scenes. No, it's not. Okay, I think that's just because I was doing a dump. If I do just a string, I think we'll give this a string back. Okay, cool. So I think everything's good. This means that we should be able to receive those. The other thing I want to do is see if I can get share. I'm going to see if I can share with Valet. All right, so for the HTTPS URL, this way we can do some testing without actually having to do anything else. Curl. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to see if I can get a web interface up, because I think this means we can actually see what's coming in. So that'll make our life a little bit easier. You're using, oh, well, this time boxes us anyway. I must not have set up my account for ngrok just yet on this workstation. Okay, so let's go into Pipedrive then. And set up a URL to webhooks Pipedrive. And cool. So in theory, I don't know if I don't remember if ngrok will update automatically, but let's go look and see. So let's go back to our people. Actually, I'm going to try to go to Bo. Simonson. See if I can mark it as not done. Then let's see. Oh, we did. So we got another webhook. And here we can see right away that we're getting interesting information. So we've got the ID of the activity. Cool. Okay. And then we can see the information that was for each item. So remind Bo to stream on Thursday on Twitch. I'm guessing the current one should have a done flag. Does it have a done flag? Yeah, done. Done is false. So currently it's not done, but previously it was done. So we have some pretty good information here that we can use. So I think what I'd like to do is probably pull meta out, at least some of this meta information, and create a model that just represents that, or that represents the webhook payload itself. So it's going to have the object, it's going to have the action, it's going to have the ID, probably this information as well, just so I can keep it. And then for current, I think these are just going to be blobs, at least for now, or just JSON blobs that we just dump into the DB. So let's go ahead and create that now. See here, it's like my music stopped. Oh, you know, they don't have that much in this genre anyway. Let's try Electro House. Maybe. Yeah, there's a little more on the Electro House front, so hopefully that sounds fun for people. Okay, so where were we? We need to make a migration, so we'll do DeFi dev, make, let's do create, drive. Let's see, what do they call this? Meta block. I guess we'll just call them webhooks. It's complicated because, well, at least in my head, let's do webhook events. Because for my mind, oh, actually, I'm going to do make model. Make model. Because if I think of a webhook, it's actually a verb. And it's also a noun in that you've added a webhook. So if, like, even if we look at this Pipedrive configuration, like the URL itself is the webhook. So I don't know what people normally say for the event part, but I'm just going to go with event. So I'm going to do Pipedrive webhook event. Oh, I want to make the migration. Hopefully that didn't happen too late. There we go. Model created successfully, and it created the migration for us. So let's go ahead and check that out. See what we want to do with it. So we want a table ID. Let's do table string object. I'll follow the naming as closely as I can here. So we'll do object action. think maybe I'll do int e. Integer, I guess. Because it looks like it's actually keeping track of the API version, I guess what that is. Yeah, Webhooks version. And let's do. Actually, I'm gonna. That's why I very much dislike. This is called ID as a column name, but it is what it is. So let's do object auction. Big integer. Object ID. And let's keep track of this stuff as well. So I'm going to look at ngrok. I think these are integers. So company ID, user ID. And I don't know if user ID is nullable. Guessing not. And then host. Not going to worry about permitted user IDs for now. Change source, notify attendees. So I think what I'm going to do is not worry about this for now. And sort of just do meta. We can store it for later if we need it. And then we'll do current and previous. So what I sort of expect here is that when the webhook is actually captured, the things that we might want to be able to build queries on would be object type. So like if we're building something specifically for activities, and then the action that's being done on it, and then the object ID. Like if we have this information, we can pull up whatever we need to for, we can pull up whatever we need to act on this specific message. The rest of the information, it could be potentially useful, but we can just get it inside the objects themselves. So inside meta, we can just explore meta and explore current and explore previous if we need to. It's kind of a hack, but something that I've done before, and I don't actually mind it sometimes. All right, has factory, so let's do casts. Need to double check how to cast as JSON, or as arrays, I guess. JSON, here we go. Attribute casting. Okay. So it's value name and then as array. So we'll do meta. Current and previous. Actually, it's probably good to know, or good to remember. These can both be nullable. Okay, cool. Okay. So I think that gives us a good base for being able to capture these requests as they come in. Let's go ahead and see if we can run the migrations. Alright, so we've added the webhook events table. And so what we need to do in our controller is try to find a way to get the information back out. So we're going to do event, create, and let's go ahead and do unguard everything. Guard? No. Oh, in the model. There we go. So nothing's going to be guarded. Means we can just create the stuff as we need it. So we're going to do so sometimes I have to look up things that I shouldn't have to look up. Okay, request inputs. And sending JSON requests to your application, it's just input method. As long as the content header of the request is set to application JSON. Let's double check ngrok to see here. Okay, so it does have accept as application JSON, so I think this will work. Request. And we've got, so it's all in meta. So let's do pull up our, just so I can remember what these look like. Request input meta.v object and we'll do object ID. ID and user ID. There we go. Okay, so we have user ID, host, even though we don't really need it, I do like including things like host here and company ID, because this will let us potentially handle multiple Pipedrive domains. If someone's building a SaaS or something along those lines, by having the host here also, it's one more level to filter that's sort of more visual. We do have the company ID, but I do like things like the host if services allow those, because it's easier to look at in the database kind of what's going on. We'll do meta. Here we're just going to take all of meta and current and previous. I think in theory that should work. And then we'll do return OK. And let's go ahead and try to make another change here. So let's go back to Pipedrive. So it changed the updated date to now. I'm going to remove the time and change it to Wednesday. Let's save this and see what ngrok has to say. All right, so it says okay. And we got an okay back, so that's good. Let's look at the DB. Okay, cool. So we do have one event in here, and it's stored as JSON like it should be. We can see it was activity was updated with the right object ID. So cool. All right, so I feel like the Pipedrive side of this is probably mostly done, because everything else that we can do easily given we have this model. So what do we need to do? Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the next piece. And let's look at the Google task. So, if you're unfamiliar with Google Tasks concept or Google Workspace coding practice, you get started. The difficult thing with Google, I've found, is it's pretty open to the world for a lot of the services. Not like Twitter, where they're going to like completely block us. But it's so much of it feels like a very painful process to get stuff up and running. Let's see this first app thing. Get a Google account, try out Google Tasks, register your product. Yeah, going to the API console, that's always fun. Before you can send requests, you have to register your clients. Actually, before I do that, I want to see if Google has a webhook. Google Tasks webhook. Because if there isn't, how to connect Google Tasks and webhooks? The task between web applications and Google. Call the API every 5 minutes. Quota, yeah. An internal webhook using Google. Check the document. Okay, so Zapier. Yeah, this would just this would just be back to Zapier. So that's not at all what I want to do. So this is why I wasn't sure if Tasks was actually going to be something that, or Google Tasks was going to be something that I was going to be able to follow up with. It's possible that I'm going to have to use something else like Todoist, if Todoist has webhooks. If Todoist doesn't have webhooks, then it doesn't really matter. So task concepts, downloads. App Engine, API. Performance. Called authorization callback handler. Yeah. Your app. All right, So I'm gonna put this on hold for a second and look at Todoist and see what the API looks like for that. Because if they have webhooks, then I think that's just what I'm going to do. Because at least for my specific case, Fantastical does actually work with Todoist as well, so that's good. All right, so we do have webhooks. Applications receive real-time notifications on a subscribed user events. Set up, you'll start receiving notifications from all your app users immediately. All right, so his list of events, app management console. So we have very similar events, except there's one very specifically for completed and uncompleted. I don't know if those are actually like additional events on top of updated or not, so we should double check that. Note was added, note updated, note deleted. We wouldn't probably care about project at this point. Okay, so I think I'm going to try and set this up. Manage app. I have an account, so let's sign up. So should actually probably go to Todoist itself and log in, because I'm guessing that's going to have to be set up. Okay, cool. So there is a task. Inbox, interesting. Try boards. I'm guessing projects must be a task list. Subtasks. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to create one called Pipedrive. Give it light blue. We'll do it as a list, not a board. Okay. So let's create a new app. We'll call the display name. Okay. All right, so I am going to have to get rid of those at some point. User count, test token, webhook, callback URL. Yeah, so I don't actually need to set these up. Webhook callback. Alright, so we'll do item added, item deleted, added, unarchived, not project added. Keyword. You know, I think I might not worry about that. Not going to do anything with notes just yet. And let's go ahead and create a new Webhooks Pipedrive, Webhooks Todoist. So this should be there. And then we need to make sure the middleware is updated for this as well.
Access denied.
And so that means have ngrok URL again at do Webhooks Todoist. But there's different versions, so let's go ahead and activate Webhooks. All right, and see if it actually does anything with it. Okay, so hasn't done anything yet. Let's go ahead and add ngrok. Is it going to see it or no? Didn't see it. Oh, I wonder. Oh, you know, maybe I do have to authorize it. Quickly create an access token to your own account. Okay. Let's see, does it say how to do it? Integrations, maybe. Oh, it's there. Interesting. So ngrok didn't get that message. Is this actually active?
Where's your code now?
Okay. So it is actually receiving it. So why is it not actually doing anything? There we go. It looks like the first one came in, post Todoist. That was the one that I did, and then this one is real. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to do the exact same thing.
Mom, today sucked. I'm not feeling great. People all laughed and they call me names. Was it so?
I wonder what sync ID is supposed to be. I wonder if we can use that somehow. Okay. Let's create a new model. We'll do Todoist webhook event. Oh, got the model again. Our migration. And be very similar to the last one we did. Got effect content. Let's see. Subtext, comments. Add comments, rename, copy link. My newest task, item added, but we didn't get one for the note, so maybe we do have to enable notes. Note added, note updated. Enable post configuration. Okay. Let's see if we can do, this is my newest task, comments. Cool, so here's another comment. This is note added. Okay, cool. All right, so let's do event name. And I guess we'll do initiator. And event data, which is a really nice catch-all. And so we have event data and initiator. Look at what we have, the Pipedrive. Copy this. Okay, cool. Alright, so we do need to pull information out as well. So item added by here's item ID, it's the same thing. Okay. Got item ID, content. Actually, let's look at, this is item added. Added by, assigned by, checked. Okay, checked 1 must mean completed. Let's see if we can confirm that. Yeah, checked 1 must be. Let's do checked. So the tricky part is that tricky part is if we're talking about comments, is this ID for the comment? Or is this ID for the... Or is it the ID for the actual item? So item completed, note added. Oh, interesting. So here, it's adding a note. This ID reference, this ID. This must be the ID for the comment then, so. And there's an ID here as well. Okay. So I think item ID is probably too specific here. So let's do event item ID or event object. It's actually pretty close to what we did for Pipedrive as well. We just go by object ID. Kind of want to split these too. Maybe I will. I wanted to keep them similar, but I do like how that was working so that we can keep them separate. We can split event name on the colon, the item, and then complete it. I think that would probably be better. And then the ID here will always reference the ID that the object was actually, represent the ID of the object that was a part of the action. Or anything else here? Event name. We could do version again. We can do. I remember version is reserved. No, good. All right, so we'll call it version because that's what it's actually called in the JSON payload here. Okay, so let's see if we can do the same sort of thing here. Migrate. And actually generate our helper files here. All right, so we should be able to go to Todoist webhook controller. We're going to kind of copy what we had Pipedrive because again, it's very similar. So we got version. Got object. So this is actually going to be event name. So object. Object ID comes from event data. ID. Company ID. That's something that we have here. And project ID. Initiator. No, I'm not going to worry about that then. Company ID, user ID though. Let's go ahead and use that. That's just the top level. Post isn't a thing. So we got version, object, action, object ID. Checked. We shouldn't have that here, because that is only specific to items. So let's Alright, so object ID, event name. I guess it makes sense to actually keep that just in case. Event data. Going to get the whole blob. And then we have initiator. And then we did lose user ID. Put that down here. Roll this back again. Migrate again. ID again. All right. Alright, so there's nothing there yet. There shouldn't be, because we haven't done anything. So let's go ahead and make a change. Can I edit a note? Yeah. Ngrok response was okay, so that's good. Cool. All right, so we've got note updated. And inside the note, we can see which item it was related to. Cool. All right, so between these two, we now have a way to capture all of the events that are happening on either side. So this might actually, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get much further than this tonight. The hard part of this is getting the integration working, or getting the webhooks working, and that seems to be working just fine. Because at this point now, what I think I'd be able to do is start firing off jobs for Todoist webhook events and for Pipedrive webhook events, and can listen to things based on it. And that'll give me a little bit of time to kind of plan out what's actually going to go on here. Because what I think I'd like to do, is have my application sort of marry these two concepts together. I guess I can probably model that real quick here. So let's do make model, and we'll do task. Use first spell rights. Need to remember to do this from now on. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So synchronized tasks. Maybe I can do this relatively quickly. Now, I don't want to keep too much state. No, I want to try to keep as little state as possible between this application, the server application, should probably just be a mapping layer. So I'm trying to figure out what would make the most sense here. So I think at the very least we need to have the Todoist object ID. So let's do big integer. Todoist item ID, and we'll do Pipedrive activity ID. This might be all we need. Where it'll get complicated is if there is some back and forth. So if Todoist completes something, my app will capture that Todoist completed it, forward it on to Pipedrive. Pipedrive will then update, and I think that'll trigger an update back to my server. So it's possible I do need to keep track of the bare minimum here. And I sort of want to treat Pipedrive as the authority. Let's do Todoist note ID, if that's what it was. Double check the ngrok output here. Yes. Here's another comment. So this was item ID. Parent IDs. Interesting. So this doesn't actually have a notion of a note ID anywhere. At least not called note ID. It's just ID that happens to be in a note. So what I think is going to happen is when Pipedrive creates a new activity, I'm going to create a subject with note. I'm going to create a Todoist item and add a Todoist note and store these IDs. That way, I'll just have to know that the first note is going to be where things get written to for Pipedrive's idea of a note or a message or whatever they call it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this then. Create Pipedrive lead. We have listeners. Isn't one? All right, handle. That's an event. I want to double check where I was dispatching those. Lead message, dispatches events created. All right, so I think I'm not going to do that necessarily. Inbound lead message created. Okay, that was okay. So what I'm going to do then is find an event. I don't know. I remember what these things were for. Pipedrive webhook event received. We're going to do serializes models, and we're going to do Pipedrive webhook event. We're going to do the exact same thing for Todoist webhook event. Good old PHP Storm doesn't. Sometimes it remembers settings. Okay, so these two events are going to be triggered. I kind of like the idea of manually doing it, but I guess for consistency's sake, I might do it the same way I did it with the inbound lead messages, where we have dispatches events, Pipedrive webhook, created is going to do we'll do received. That's where we should probably name it the right thing. I guess it doesn't really matter, it's just not my favorite. Need to do this on the model. Todoist. All right. So now when we create these objects, these events should be dispatched automatically. So now we can start creating some listeners that are named a little more explicitly. Let's do create event, and let's do feed. Alright, so this job is probably closer to what we need to do. So let's do create synchronized task. Oh, no. All right, so interacts with queue, queuable, serializes models. Direct inbound lead message. So what we're going to do is accept a then inside handle, we're going to explore the contents of our webhook data to create our synchronized task. So, excuse me. So we have this Pipedrive event. Updated. Current. So this should be our activity details. which look like this. And so now we need to pull this information out. So we've got ID, type. I'm not going to do anything with type just yet. Done. And look at our synchronized. This is the information we have so far. I think you can technically create an activity that's already completed, or it's already done. So ID done, due date. The other kind of annoying thing about the Pipedrive system is that you always have to have a due date. Due time, duration. I was pulling out things that I know could be potentially interesting. Type. Org ID, these are all CRM related things. So an organization in the CRM, a person in the CRM, a deal in the CRM, and a lead. User ID, active, note. And then there's names for these. Deal title, lead title. I think I saw that on there. Yeah. So we got lead ID and then title. Location might be interesting, I think, but I don't really know what we would do with that. Just location. A lot of, yeah, I'm not going to put that on there. It's definitely not something that I think I need right now. So, person Dropbox, BCC, type name. So subject, and I think maybe there wasn't a note. Maybe I'll try adding one to Pipedrive again with a note and see what that does. To make sure I know what that looks like. It's just note, I guess. Okay. Subject, note. All right, so if the activity data has this information, then we can use this to populate as much information on the synchronized task as we want. Alternately, we can do the bare minimum and just pass this information on to Todoist. So let's go try to figure out which things make the most sense here. I think it probably wouldn't be bad to at least store this information for now. So we have ID already, subject note. Is this information? It does. I do want to. Alright, let's double check Packagist. See if there's anything in here for Todoist. Just PHP. Ow. I suspect this isn't going to be a lot of work anyway, but let's see what this looks like. Feels all... See if this is already working with PHP 8. No. Recognize. All right. Yes, test token. Hoping I can. Oh, crap. I gotta get better at this. I need to remember to censor this stuff a little better. So we'll do Todoist token. And add it to the config. Then I'll just add it to services. Pipedrive, Todoist. All right, cool. And let's see, where do I have my? I did some provider. The Pipedrive provider was just there. Let's double check what the REST API looks like. Authorization header, bearer token. All right, so projects, updater project, task. Huh. Curious why it's called task here, but in the webhook it's called item. guess it doesn't matter. Comments, update a comment. This is the things that we're going to need to do. There we go. I think the Pipedrive API was already pretty straightforward. So I guess it's not a bad thing if we're using Guzzle. Let's do boot. There we go. Okay, so our train synchronized class gets the webhook event. Handle should get the Todoist API. Then we're going to want to create a task. Create task. And we're going to want to pass in subject and note. I'm not going to pass in the note. I'm going to do note ID. Note. And we need to associate the note with a task. And finally, synchronized task, create, and we'll do Pipedrive activity ID. Activity data. Just ID. Yeah. And Todoist task ID. I think it was item ID. these are the functions that we need to worry about. So Todoist API, create task, double check what all we have here. So oh, sorry. Want to create a new task. Content, yes. That is required. So task content. And we know that we need a due date. That's interesting. Label ID, priority, due string, human defined task due date, specify. Okay, we're gonna use this version, I think. Due string. Or not. We'll do due string instead. So we'll do string, due string. Do lang. All right, so I think the only thing that might be weird now is we might have to specify a project ID, which is kind of annoying. I guess we'll leave it in the inbox for now and see what that means, really. This is the information that we're actually going to have access to. Create task, and this should return an integer. So we'll do client. Actually, no, I'm going to try using, do we have symphonies? Symphony. I guess I don't right now, so we'll use this one. Post. And URL. Okay, so it does give the base URL here. Open tasks. I don't know why it's not actually giving the base URL, but whatever. Post. Create options. We're going to want to pass headers. Jason. I think there was actually a header for that. Jason. Oh. Yeah. Jason. And then the body will be content. New string. And then we want headers. Basic digest error. Hey, bud. Quick little break there. All right. Headers. Okay. Authorization. Error. I actually want to extract this out too. Post. Let's get a build all response back. No, let's do a there we go. Response interface. We want JSON to be this information. So we'll do the headers along with the JSON content. There we go. I think this will work. And then response, JSON, get body, get reason phrase. Actually, let's do, since we're going all in on Guzzle at this point, let's just do this. Response. That's kind of what is this return? Response interface. And that is all right, so back here, and so the response of creating a task was what? The ID. We create notes real quick. No, comments. Use content again. task ID. Content. So we got task ID, we've got content. That might be all we need for now. Alright, so I do date. Alright, so we have those two things. Note, theory, we have everything that we need here. Assuming our ngrok thing hasn't broken. So the next bit that we need to do is wire this up. So we're going to add a new listener. We trigger our job. So listener, we're going to do create synchronized task when Pipedrive.
We ask ourselves,
And created.
what does it mean? Are we alone? The hunters and gatherers. Knowing about the sky
And so
is a matter of life and death.
this is going to be Pipedrive webhook created. And we will do same thing we did here. We're going to do create synchronized task.
And death.
Dispatch with event. So this is the part that hooks it into the jobs. So whenever a Pipedrive webhook event created, we're going to create synchronized task. Now that isn't always true, actually, because we really only want to do that if the Pipedrive webhook is what we're expecting. So we'll do, let's do matches string object string action boolean. And so we're looking at turn this Pipedrive object. And so I'm actually going to copy this into Pipedrive Webhook itself. Go here and peel it back a layer. It's getting too late here, which means then I can do Pipedrive Webhook event matches object. And so this handler can be called every single time a Pipedrive Webhook event is created, but we can do if event matches the activity added. Okay. So if it's not actually the kind of event that we're interested in, then we can just ignore it. So this is only going to be picked up when an activity is actually added. So what we could do is add another layer of indirection here and have dispatch Pipedrive events when Pipedrive Webhook event created, and then have this dispatch a activity added, Pipedrive activity added event. But this is probably just an easier way to get the same sort of thing going. Let's see, is our ngrok time limit up? It says session will end in 25 minutes. Cool, so I have a little more time. So let's see what happens if I add a new activity. Let's just see how awesome this is or not. All right. So we've got a 500 internal error, so that's always nice to see. Oh, and then Pipedrive did a duplicate, which is not what we want to see. So let's see here. 500 internal server error. ID to fillable property. Oh, that was the only thing that held us back. That's awesome, but it's also really annoying. The problem was that this needed to be guarded, setting guarded to basically nothing. Although I'm curious to see what Todoist did now. So it does have an inbox, email blow again. So it actually created them, which is awesome in its own way. Let's see what we have. Todoist a bit. Okay, so this is the thing, is that when these notes were added, they were actually added back to the app as well. We just didn't do anything with them. Synchronize tasks. Oh, you know what? We didn't actually migrate either. I really jumped the gun on this. That's fine. Cool. So it's empty now. Let's see what happens with Pipedrive. Add. Oh. All right, so we didn't get a 500 internal server error. Let's see. Voice. All right, so we now have most of the bits that we need in order to actually do something awesome here. Because we now have our tasks synchronized, at least that are connected between the two systems. And look at this. Email Bo again with a comment of hello world. Okay, so the reason we have hello world there is because it's hard coded. We're actually going to want to get that from the note. And we'll do empty note. Actually, so we actually want to build the note. And if there's a note, we also want to add another one. So if is set, and it has a value, then we'll do Todoist API create note. Okay. And if we remember what Zapier looked like, we're going to do something very, very, very similar here. Yeah, so we want this same format. So we're going to do lines. All right, so first line is going to be person name. So if activity data person ID, we'll do lines. Where's person? Person email. Email Bo 2. Oh, interesting. Org name, person name. Doesn't actually include the email addresses. That's fine. So if person ID do was it person name, org name? So we're going to add the person's name and then note lines. We're going to construct the URL, which was here. There we go. So if there's a person name, we'll get a person name. In all cases, we want the activity ID. I could see the URL for that. So let's go into proper Pipedrive here. All right. Okay. Oh, let's copy the link. There we go. What's that? Oh. Keep having this issue, and I'm not sure why. I think that didn't function unit test. That's all about. So we'll do activities, list user, activity 44. I guess that makes sense to go there. User is me. So that comes from user ID. This comes from activity ID. Actually, this is object ID. Okay. Yes, I think this will work. So if there's a person, we're going to show the person with the link to the person, along with do the same thing for organization, org ID, org name, URL. And if there's an org ID, org ID will add an org to as well. Cool. Same thing with lead. Leadinization. So lead title. This would be leads. And then deal ID, deal title, and deals. All right. Go ahead and creating. Actually, we could. Brain hurting. I didn't delete myself. Oh, here I am. Email bow 2. Note. All right, so let's see. Hundreds, awesome. Let's look and see what we see. This actually created this information for us. So let's see what we actually did in Todoist. Right, so this is, what did I just add? This is my new task. So it has 2 comments, awesome. Comments, cool. So this is my note, is the note that was actually added, but the first one is the value that is synchronized with Pipedrive. So in theory, this one shouldn't be editable. I don't think we'll do any synchronization with this anymore. Actually, we might want to be able to do this, but I think any changes to this note in Todoist or in the remote system isn't going to be forwarded back to Pipedrive. Let's see, am I able to add more notes to this? Edit. No. So I can change the note. Oh, interesting. I do like that. Okay, so what we can do instead is, instead of doing it this way, we can do this is always going to have a blank line here, and rather than creating this, what we'll do is do it up here. Activity note. So if there's a note that happens to be attached, let's do trim this. So this stuff's always going to be added. Person, org, lead, deal. along with the link to the activity itself. But the we'll only add this if there's a note here. Let's go ahead and try one more. Let's see if I can add a lead or a deal. Do I have an org here? I'm going to add dfly dev as a new organization. Let's see. The last one for the night. Comments. Awesome. So Bo Simonson, dfly dev, so I'd actually put the org on there. And we have the yeah probably, and it's even rendering it as you might expect it would. So the last thing I want to do before I sign off here, so it's gone a little longer than I'd intended. I want to get Todoist connected to, probably should have done this earlier to make sure that this was actually even going to connect the way that I want it to. All right, so Todoist is showing up. What I do have is deduplicated, so I need to add my Todoist inbox and Pipedrive. Okay, so activity, the nice generic name. I don't know about that one. I'm going to delete these two because I don't need them anymore. Email Bo again. Email Bo 2. So, plus 8 more. Nice. Let's see. So this may be the last one for tonight. Let's double click this. Oh. Bummer. Yeah, I should have checked that. Project priority none. It doesn't have the context now. It's always something. A day at a time, project. All right, well, you know what? I think I will accept that because the main thing for me, well, actually, I could maybe do the URL. Maybe that's the last one that I'll do for the night. Let's see, how do I do, create a new comment, attachment, file type. Actually, let me see. This should have bidirectional, so if I add a URL to this, in theory, that should show up now in my Todoist. Interesting. Yeah, so it made it a link. Huh. And I think we should have captured that. Yeah, item updated. Where is the link? Ah! Oh, cool. Okay, so this means we can use markdown for the content, which means we can subject. We want this URL. Okay. Okay. Let's see if this works like I think it will. Links. Oh, you know what? It probably won't. Blast. Is there any place else in here? No task, labels, link ID, history. Hey Pale Ales, how's it going? I can't see when you wrote that. Hopefully it wasn't too long ago. I'm pretty deep in this, yo. I think I could pretty easily link that to something. The question is, what do I want to link it to? My guess is that to link equals null. All right, and no. I'm gonna do this the easy way. So for any of these links that get created, we're gonna put it on. And then we're gonna take the first item in the link, or in the list. And worst case scenario, the final link added will be the only one that exists, which would be to the activity itself. So if there is a person and an org, actually I'm probably going to swap these because it's going to be a preference thing now. So if there's an organization, that'll get added. There's a person and that's the only thing, last thing listed, then that will be what gets clicked on, which I think makes more sense. Activity data for lead, leads person, these. So it looks like what I can do then is use the subject and use markdown. So I'll do %s will be the subject, followed by links 0, which should always have something. Let's go ahead, try this again. Organization, deploy dev. Ah, session expired. No. Oh, it figures. All right. Well, I think that is probably going to be it for the night. Because now I'll have to go and update everything here. I may do just because. Real quick.
I'm just waiting here for you. I just want your presence. You got me feeling blue. Don't keep me waiting.
I really got to get my ngrok set up again. This is annoying. All right, and then I need to do the same thing for Pipedrive. And I gotta get rid of the old one. And just back to people. Oh. Alright, now let's go see. Cool. So Pipedrive webhook arrived, Todoist webhook arrived. And let's see what Todoist looks. Well, actually, let's go look at here now. Not as fun at the end here, though. And the link is to the organization. Oh. Okay, I had it in the right order the first time. So actually, I think I probably want to do it this order. And then clicking on it will actually take me to the organization like I would expect, which is awesome. And so the other thing I wanted to do, if there is, okay, cool. So I can do, I don't know if there's a way to actually get that dialogue to load. Alright, so do the one last one. Yep, there we go. And this one goes to Bo. So that's good. That's exactly what I was looking for. Awesome. So I think I should probably call it a night because this is almost 3 hours now, 2.5. And it's doing the hard part. It's actually synchronizing things and connecting them up. Inside Todoist, we actually have a little more context than we do in Fantastico, which is good, I guess. Last one for real. That's bringing me to Pipedrive. If I look at the quotes, I can see the context for it. Not that I actually need to use this, but this is the main thing, I guess, making sure I have a link to something that is relevant to what I'm doing. I do feel like it would be better to take me to the activity. Last one for real. It brought me here. I could go to the person, or I could go to the org if I wanted to. Cool. So here are all of the tasks now that were actually added to the organization after I created it. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. Well, for everyone who watched tonight, thank you. I'm going to try and come back on Thursday, same time. I don't know if it's going to be the same topics, but yeah, I'm feeling a lot better about this than I was with the Zapier solution. I think this is going to be a lot better. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Hopefully we're really close to actually getting this completed, so then we can move on to something else fun some other time. Cool. So thank you all for joining. Bell Ales, if you came back, awesome. Hopefully I'll see you on Thursday too. All right, thank you. Bye.
Galactic Trumpet